So, we all know about that infamous Sonic game that basically changed the course of the entire franchise that one fateful year. But what if we lived in a world where this game got the remake treatment? What would we like to see in it? Let's discuss right now. Hello there, beautiful human. My name is RidersDX. Welcome to my channel, where today we're going to be talking about a pretty iconic Sonic game here, although it's probably for the wrong reasons, and that is Sonic 06. And so Sonic 06 is a very popular topic amongst the Sonic community, and we've seen millions, if not billions, of YouTube videos just on this sole game. And so it's just like, man, this was a game that when it came out during my childhood, it was something that I was so excited about. I mean, I was just like looking up all the screenshots and video clips that I could, and it was just such an event. And I remember waiting overnight for this demo to download onto my Xbox 360 and everything, you know? It's kind of crazy to think about how this game turned out to be and what its legacy ultimately was. But one thing that's often discussed with this game in particular is the idea of a remake and whether or not it would be worth remaking this game, because this is not just a game that was just bad from the start. This was a game that had ambition. It had dreams of being the most iconic and best Sonic game of all time. It wanted to be what Sonic Adventure wanted to be. And so it really is a popular topic to, you know, sort of dream about. What if this game did get the remake treatment? Like, would it be the best game ever, or are there some inherent flaws to it that would stop it from being a great game? So what I want to discuss in today's video is that if this game did get the remake treatment, what would I personally like to see in it? Now, I am aware that there's a really awesome remake project out there right now that basically makes this game a beautiful canvas of amazing stuff. But my definition of a remake in this case is more of a reimagining. That project aims to be more of a one-to-one project with major improvements on gameplay, visuals, etc. But what I want to talk about here is, like, if I got to take Sonic 06, map it out, and just change whatever it is I wanted to, how would I personally see this game? I think this game definitely needs a major makeover, and so there's so many things I could talk about honestly, but I was able to boil it down to 10 bullet points. If you have anything that you want to see in a remake of Sonic 06, then definitely let me know down in the comment section below. Also, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like videos like this, you want to see more in the future, and subscribe to this channel because this is not the last Sonic game I'll be making this kind of video for. I kind of want to go through a bunch of Sonic games to kind of think about if a remake were to ever happen, what I'd like to see in them. And so if you have any suggestions for what game I should do next, then definitely let me know in the comment section. But alright, let's go ahead and head into this video. Number one, I'm going to focus on the story for a couple of bullet points first, because I know a lot of people don't think that the story matters, but with Sonic 06, the story was a really major element of the game, and it's the root of a lot of criticism for this game. And so one thing that I think they should just do from the start is just shift the tone of the story. I think that the story tries so hard to be taken seriously in basically every cutscene imaginable that there's little to no relief from drama, aside from a couple out of place scenes which just really seem awkward and weird. And so I think the perfect tone they could go for is something like Sonic Unleashed, where it was sort of serious, but it also had its funny moments here and there. Or even like the intro cutscene of Sonic 06 itself, you know, it was definitely very serious and very tense, but when Sonic came in and had that smirk on his face and destroyed all those robots, you definitely got a sense of like fun and adventure. And I really wish we got to see more of that Sonic throughout the entire story. And so I want the tone of the story to take on that vibe. You could have serious situations, but have some fun injected into it, you know, just like the adventure games. The second bullet point, we're going to focus on Sonic specifically, because I feel like Sonic is severely underused in this game in terms of story. You know, he's basically spending his entire campaign saving the princess, having the princess get captured again, saving the princess again, you know, back and forth, and it's just such an uninspired and boring story to go through. And this is Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, it's his game, you know. Sonic should have a bigger role in what's going on in the story. Now, I know that Silver and Shadow definitely have more than enough development on the actual main enemy of this game, and so their stories are perfectly fine in terms of development and lore, but I think Sonic just kind of needs a bit of that pie, basically. He needs a bit of that share, you know? You don't have to give him everything. I think it can still, for the majority, be a part of Silver and Shadow's stories, because I think they do a decent enough job developing those two characters in those stories, but having Sonic take part in it as well, and really having Eggman get interwoven with that plotline would be great as well. And so I don't know, I just think Sonic needs to like actually be a part of this. And one way of making sure that that's the case is that they need to make Elise less of a prominent character. I mean, I don't mind Elise still being there as a character, but definitely tone down the romance subplot. You know, that really was not something that was just fun to watch at all. Like, they really didn't have that really good of chemistry. So making Elise just a sub character and just making her someone that is kind of a source of information in terms of like Soliana, the town itself, I think would be perfectly fine. And also, if we're gonna reduce the role of Elise, then I would like to see Tails and Knuckles take a bigger part in the story as well. Something that I feel like Shadow's story does really well is making use of Rouge and Omega like really well. And so why can't Tails and Knuckles be the same case with Sonic's story? Like, they basically just pop in and out whenever. They're there, make use of them. At number 3, we're going to focus on Sonic and Shadow's levels. They basically need to rework them entirely. I want the levels and design of them to be more akin to the original adventure titles. There's something about the levels in original adventure games that feel really fluid, really fast, yet precise at the same time in terms of platforming. They were able to perfectly balance platforming and speed, and I feel like Sonic 06 just really lacks in that. Instead, what Sonic 06 tries to do is tries to make up for the speed by having these automated sections where Sonic looks like he's going really fast, but like you're not doing anything, and so you're not really getting that sense of speed. Another example of where they tried to inject speed was through the max speed sections, which I'll be honest, I kind of want them to just take out. They weren't that fun, and I don't want this to be a boost game either. And so the only way I could see max speed sections working is just making them full on boost gameplay. I'm just like, no, I don't want boost gameplay to be a part of this game. And so I think they just need to be cut out. They could still be automated if they really want to keep those like visuals, I guess, because there are some pretty impressive visuals, but I think they should just be cut out. So doing some things like making the spin dash more useful, and also just making the stages a little bit faster and just much less reliant on combat and platforming, and a little bit more of a balance, I think would be a really great idea. There's so many things they need to fix here. They need to fix the controls, fix the stage layouts, and you know, just kind of overhaul the levels, I guess. At number 4, this applies to basically every single character in this game, but please reduce the amount of combat that we're doing. I don't think people realize this, but you destroy a lot of robots and enemies in this game. You could spend like half the stage just defeating enemies, and I'm not really sure why this is a thing. I feel like this is a feature that a lot of games were taking on back then, you know, just becoming more and more like a beat 'em up, and this isn't what a Sonic game is all about. A Sonic game is definitely much more on like the speed and platforming aspects of it. And so I could understand like someone like Silver having a little bit more combat, sure, but making that like the majority of some of these levels is just not that fun. Like, I remember playing through Aquatic base, for instance, with Sonic and using a bounce attack over and over again, destroying all these robots. I'm like, man, this is not fun. I want to do more platforming. I want to be speeding up more. You know, it's just like reduce the combat. Like, that's not really what I'm buying a Sonic game for. At number 5, we're gonna focus on Shadow a little bit, but I want them to either remove or minimize the role of vehicles in Shadow's levels. When they appeared in Shadow the Hedgehog, they were really useless, but a good thing is that you didn't really need them that much, and so you could kind of just ignore them for the most part. But in Sonic 06, you're forced to use them. Like, you're forced into sections where you need to use the vehicles, and they don't really add anything to the game besides frustration and just like nothingness. It's sort of like when you had those tornado levels in the original adventure. They're just like an unwelcome change of pace. I mean, sure, I think that it is possible to make them a little bit more fun, but it's like I just rather be like playing as Shadow himself during these levels. I don't mind that they're there, and so if they do need to be kept, then that's fine, I guess, but definitely make their role smaller at least. Like, don't make them take up much more of the level. Make them like really quick sections, in my opinion. At number 7, we're gonna focus on Silver. So one thing about his gameplay that was always really frustrating is that when you didn't have any access to like enemies or boxes in combat, it could be really frustrating to destroy enemies if like you can't stun them the way that you're able to later on in the game with that slam move. And so giving Silver some basic melee abilities, whether it be combat moves or the ability to shoot out some sort of projectile of his telekinesis, would just make his gameplay so much easier and so much more fair, because Silver is otherwise completely defenseless if he can't grab onto anything. And there are some situations, especially early on in the game, where you can't actually grab onto anything that easily. I'll never forget how frustrating it is to have to walk up to an enemy and stun the enemy before I can grab them. Like, that's just so dumb, especially when you have a group of enemies and you're trying to do this to one enemy, you got 4 other ones attacking you at the same time. It just just doesn't work. So just giving him some basic melee abilities would be perfectly fine. And number 8, so one thing that was pretty prevalent in this game was the side missions within the adventure fields, and it's like I never really felt that much incentive to do these, mostly because I was not really that interested in taking these tasks from these regular civilians. And so one thing that I think could make these missions a little bit more appealing is adding side missions from other Sonic characters, so you don't have to have just the civilians. And so you could have side missions from your amigos, for instance, and you could even have side missions where you take control of the amigos themselves. You could also have side missions from characters from other storylines, or even have side missions from characters that are not a part of the story itself. And so it could be a great way to loop in a bunch of the cast within the Sonic lore. Like, for example, it'd be a great way to see the Chaotix appear in this game, even though they're not actually a part of the story. Like, you can still have the local civilians there, but it would at least incentivize longtime Sonic fans to take a look at these side missions and not make them so much of a waste of time. Kind of like how they did it in Sonic Colors DS actually, where you got to play these little missions within each amusement park that would loop in various characters within the Sonic universe. It was a really cool thing that they did in that game. At number 9, I want new levels that are dedicated to the amigos themselves, you know, kind of like that DLC that they did where you got to play as Blaze, Tails, and Omega, I think, a little bit more. So just do a little bit more of that, because I think that's really cool. You have all these characters, you might as well make use of them, and they don't necessarily have to be tied to the story. They could just be standalone levels that you can play. With these additions though, one thing that I do want them to change is that I want them to cut out the parts of the levels where you switch to the amigos during the main character campaigns. I think these just serve as pace breakers, just like how entering a Mach Speed section with Sonic or entering a vehicle section with Shadow can be a real pace breaker and just not make the level flow that well. I never liked having to switch to Tails or Knuckles within Sonic's levels, for instance, but I did enjoy playing as Tails by himself within his Wave Ocean level. And so if they could just have their own infused levels and just have those be how you use these amigos, I think that would be perfectly fine, and it would be a lot more fun that way as well. And so yeah, I would just love to see some more solo action for these characters. Number 10, this is the last thing I have, but honestly there probably could be way more things I could talk about, honestly, but I want them to not only make the adventure fields smaller and more compact, but also add more stuff to do in them as well. You know, I feel like there's just so much empty space in these adventure fields, especially in the forest. Like, good gosh, like that's just so much empty space, and it's such a waste of time traveling through them. And so make them smaller and also add some actual other things to do in them besides the side missions and such. One thing I could think of, for example, is like adding a child garden. I mean, there's certainly enough room in these vast areas to do it, and so make that a fun feature within the game, you know. And you could also add online capabilities within these adventure fields as well, or whatever else that they could think of. Make use of them a little bit more. Don't make them just like simple transition phases between each level, you know. Make them actually have more of a purpose besides wasting time, basically. I could probably go on and on about things that they could add or fix in this game, but bottom line is, first of all, they just need to fix the game. Just make it playable. That's probably the number one thing that they need to do, and then they could focus on all these different additions and ideas that I have, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if like you don't have any of this stuff. As long as you have a solid game foundation, then that's something that's going to support everything else. And so bottom line, that's the main thing that they need to do. I know that wasn't a part of my list technically, but I feel like that's kind of a good assumption to make, that like, hey, if we're going to remake this game, you know, make it actually playable. That would be a good idea. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What things do you want to see added to Sonic 06? What things you want to see cut out? Which things you want to see fixed? Let me know why or why not in the comment section below as well. And just like, yeah, thank you so much. Let me know what next game you want me to cover next in terms of what a theoretical remake could be like. I would love to hear your thoughts. But just, yeah, thank you all so much. Check out Project 06. It's an amazing project, and yeah, I'll see y'all next time. This is Riders, riding out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Special shout out to the Nerd Corner, Killer Lemurs, Team Ride with Sonic Gamers, Johnny Hinton Ortiz, Timebender, Jeremy Games, Amarillo66, Trash Q, Abraham Muter, and Mass Muter. These are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member, get access to a whole bunch of different perks, and please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.